Okay, I'm going to show you some player movement. In this player movement, we're going to be using horizontal and vertical speed variables that are on each one of the objects to control the speed. So you can look here, if this is the feel you want, or if you hit left and right, it will accelerate. And then if it hits the side of the room, it stops. If this is what you're looking for, it's kind of a real momentum feel, then this is the tutorial for you. So here we go. Kind of gets stuck, but I can change it. Whoa. All right. So here's my player. Now in my creation event, put this up here. I like it up here. My creation event, I set a variable called player speed. Let's put that underneath here. And player speed is what I'm going to be using to control the acceleration of the player. I have mine set to 1. Just kind of feels right. 5 was too much. Let's go with the left movement. So when we hit the left keyboard, it minuses player speed relative. So it subtracts from player speed. The reason we do that, or I should say player speed gets subtracted from the horizontal speed of the player. I shall digress for a second here. Horizontal speed is positive to the right and negative to the left. So if you have negative horizontal speed, you're moving left. If you have positive horizontal speed, you're moving right. Same thing with up and down. So let's look it up. I'm going to set the vertical speed now, and I'm going to subtract relative so that I am moving more up every time I hold down the up button. Then right, I'm setting the horizontal speed to become player speed relative, so it increases the horizontal speed to the right. And down is going to, of course, be player speed relative, so it increases the vertical speed down with every keystroke. Now it kind of gives it a kind of a neat momentum feel to it. And here's how I kept it from leaving the room. If X, the position of the player in the X coordinate, is smaller than 0, it's off the screen. If that's true, I set the horizontal speed to 0. Now if X is, I put room width minus 20 here because I don't want to go off, all the way off. I want to stick on the edge. If you use room width, it would go partly off. It would go all the way to the orientation point of your sprite. So if X is larger than the room width is the basic idea, well, then it must be going off the right-hand side of the room. So again, we're going to set the horizontal speed to 0. If Y is smaller than 0, that means it must have gone off the top of the screen. So we will set the vertical speed to 0. And of course, if Y is greater than the room height, then that means it must be going off the bottom of the screen. So we set the vertical speed to 0. Now, what happens with this situation, when I play this again, if you have both horizontal and vertical speed, when you reach the side of the room, it only stops. Let me show you. So if I have, let me give myself a little bit down here. If I have horizontal and vertical speed like this, and it hits, it will still keep going horizontally. It doesn't stop them both. It just stops one of them. And that's an easy change. Whoa. Oops, that went flying off the screen there almost. Don't stick. That's a pretty easy fix. You can come back to the player here and left. Okay, well, sorry, step event. So if I can put in some controls here where it will set right there. So I'll set the horizontal speed, and I'll go up to movement, and I'll also set the vertical speed to 0. So that would mean, so this is smaller than X, so it's to the left, so I'll test to the left. That means it's going to completely stop if it hits the left-hand side of the screen. To do this for the rest of them, you would of course put control put these down here, go to movement, and then so this is so this is already horizontal. I also want vertical 0, and so forth. So now I can test it in the X direction. Let's see what happens here. And so when I hit the left and right hand side, it should stop. This might not be what the feel that you want for your game, but it's something here. So if I'm traveling in a weird direction, boom, it'll just hit the side and stop. Then I'll have to accelerate again. Oops, I got stuck off there. Now you can move off kind of eventually. If you go like this and you hold it down, it will stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Okay, so you can kind of like squeeze off the screen if you want to. Okay, so that's kind of one way to, kind of a soft way to keep people on the screen. All right. Okay. Donk. Okay, of course I haven't done the rest of those. Okay, now let's set a speed limit. That's going to be done down here. I'll actually make that a little smaller, easier to see. Okay, so we're going to check if your hspeed or horizontal speed is larger than your speed limit. You're going to set the speed to the speed limit. What is speed limit? When I created the player, I made a variable called speed limit and set it equal to 10. That way, if I change this value, it changes the speed limit of the player in all directions. And if the horizontal speed is smaller than the negative of the speed limit, because that we're moving in the negative direction, then I'm going to set my hspeed or horizontal speed to the negative of the speed limit because it's moving in the negative direction. And basically the same thing for vspeed. If vspeed is greater than the speed limit, larger than the speed limit, I set it equal to the speed limit. And in the other direction, if the variable vspeed is smaller than the negative of the speed limit, I'm going to set it to negative of the speed limit. So it'll never get more than 10 or less than negative 10 in the vertical or horizontal direction. And so you can kind of see that as it starts to accelerate here, it'll hit a certain speed vertically and horizontally and slow down. So let's test it here. Speeds up and then it just doesn't go any faster. Speeds up, stops. Horizontal, horizontal, flying around, hit the side of the room. It's kind of an interesting feel. You know, you're not turning on a dime. It's a little bit more realistic, you know. Adds a little level of frustration because you can't move instantly. All right, stick. Bye-bye.